Whether you're just starting with your very first blog or considering getting started with your first blog, or you've been building a website for a long time, it can be incredibly valuable to know how valuable that website actually is. So in this video, I want to help you figure out exactly how valuable your site is, or at least how valuable it can be. Now, first off, the reason I like to know how much my websites are worth is it gives me a different perspective on those websites. We often talk about how much they earn, which is really, really great. But what we don't always talk about is how much they can be worth if at some point we decide we want to sell this little business that we've created, cash out, and use that money for future things. It's also really helpful when you're starting a website and you're afraid that at some point down the road, this topic or this website may not be the thing you're passionate about, and you're going to want to start a different one. Well, what are you going to do with the first one? It can be incredibly motivating to know that that first one may have considerable value and may be able to give you a head start financially when you start the next one. So let's dive into it now to figure out exactly what they're worth. I think you may be surprised just how much you can get for your blog. When it comes to valuing websites, there are really two components. The first of those components is really straightforward. It's profit. How much money is your website making? To figure out the profit, what we're going to do is we're going to look at every single month for at least the last 12 months. Typically, when you sell a website, the buyer's going to want to see as much history as you're able to provide them. But at least 6 to 12 months is going to go into play when we value a website. So what we're going to do is we're going to list out all of the income streams that we have, how much income came in from each one every month, and total that up. That's revenue. So if you're making money from ads like Ezoic or AdSense, how much money did they pay you every month? You're going to be able to find this very easily in your report from Ezoic or from AdSense. Likewise, if you're making money from Amazon or some other affiliate program, you're going to be able to see in their reports your monthly income. You should also keep track every month of your actual bank statements and all of the transactions to make sure those things match up, especially if this is a business you're ever going to consider selling. You're going to want to make sure you track those things. When we add all of those up every single month, we're going to have a monthly revenue number. Now what we need is monthly expenses. Now I like to break expenses down into two categories. The first category of expenses is just regular ongoing expenses. These are the things that are still going to have to be done when the buyer takes over the website. This is like hosting for your actual website. This is the domain registration or registrations that are involved with owning this website. This could potentially include some other things, but at the very basic level, it's going to be those. We need to list out the actual costs we paid every single month. And in this column, we're going to list all of the ones that are going to be ongoing. If the person buying the website were to continue operating the website exactly as it is today. In the next column, we're going to list out all of the costs each month that are not necessarily ongoing. For example, if you bought some content, you paid for a bunch of stock images. Well, that content is already on the site. It's already paid for. The buyer of the website, to take over the site as is, would not need to necessarily add additional content. So I'm going to list those in a separate column because it's going to come into play if we actually do consider selling our website. So here's what this could potentially look like. I may have a column here on a spreadsheet for ads from Ezoic, Amazon affiliate, total income or revenue. Then I'm going to have ongoing expenses and other expenses. Now notice when I total these up, I get a net income. The net income is the income or revenue minus expenses. Net income is also profit. It's the number we're looking for, and I want to leave it as a monthly number. Now this net income adjusted number that I have over here on the right, this is if we don't take into account those other expenses. At the bottom, I am then going to take an average of the column. So here I'm listing 12 months. You can do whatever makes the most sense on your website, but again, people are often going to want to look at 12 months so that they can see if there's seasonality to your website. If you only show the last 6 months, but those last 6 months were a high season, for example, you have an outdoors based, an outdoor sport or something, but you just show those months March through August, a buyer is going to realize that you're not showing them the off-season months, and they're going to think that you're trying to base the valuation of your website only on the high season. It's not going to work out well for you. They're going to want to know what those numbers look like in those 6 months of the off-season. But this average income number is really what we're looking for, as well as I like this income number adjusted, this average for the last 12 months. That's the first piece, and it's really straightforward. The more involved piece is the second element. The second element is the multiplier. And this one can be a little harder to figure out because there are a lot of factors that go into it. So let's break that one down. As a starting point, what I like to do is I like to go to some online marketplaces where people actually buy and sell websites. One that I like is Motion Invest, motioninvest.com. If you just create a login, you can see all the URLs, but at very least, you can see here the niche, you can see the source of their income, so you can see how well monetized they are. Are they just using affiliate marketing? Do they have just ads? Are they doing both? Do they have an info product? And so you can see the kind of business that it is. They also show you monthly revenue and the multiple or multiplier that's being used for the actual price. What I like to do is look at sites that are going to be the most similar to mine possible. Now, when I say similar, I'm not just talking about the niche. That can be part of it, but I'm looking for websites that are similar in income to mine. And so, I wouldn't want to compare the multiple of my website, if my website were making $1,000 a month, to a website that's making $20,000 a month. There's going to be so many differences in the way those two websites are working today that they're going to have very different multiples. So I look for sites that are going to be similar and therefore probably similarly priced to mine. I'm going to look at ones that are similarly monetized to mine. If I have pretty good affiliate marketing as well as pretty good advertising on the website, I'm going to look for other sites that are like that. And essentially, I'm going to take an average of what those multiples are, and that's going to give me a good starting point for my website. Just scrolling through here, we're seeing multiples everywhere from, looks like I just saw 26 is about a low, up to that very first one is a 47, which is on the high end. One here way down at the 18 range. When I see some websites that are kind of outliers like that one, I might look into it a little bit more. It could be that this one is making a lot of money from less traffic, or that there's some other factor that's causing it to be sort of an outlier on the multiple side, in which case I'm gonna probably omit it unless my website would also be an outlier. So that seems to be my typical range today, 26 to 47, but most of these sites in the mid to upper 30s. I'm seeing that a lot these days. It used to be that like 20 to 30 and then maybe 25 to 35 was really normal. Today we're seeing more like 30 to 45 being a really common range for most websites. Another place I like to go look, just because it's got a very wide range of websites and a very big marketplace at pretty much any given time, is this site, empireflippers.com. Here I can filter this down. You can see they're selling websites up to like $10 million. But if I have a website that today is making about $1,000 a month, I figure it's probably going to be in about that $40,000 ballpark. So I'm going to bring this way down. I wonder if I can type that in. Yeah, 40,000. In fact, let's make it 50. That is going to filter this down and allow me to look at just websites that are similarly priced to mine. I can see their monthly net profit number. And then again, here, look, I'm seeing 31 to about 43. But there's 3 up here that are at 43, 1 at 40. So really, maybe upper 30s, maybe 38 is a good starting point for my website. Remember, how much you would actually get for your website is going to depend on who's interested in buying it at the time and how they value the website too. And so some of these factors are going to help you figure out what somebody's going to be likely willing to pay for your site. The first factor I want to look at is seasonality. Now, if we're looking at a full 12-month picture, we've already taken seasonality into account on the net profit side. And so we don't necessarily have to adjust it substantially when it comes to the multiplier. However, people tend to prefer a site that's going to be more stable. When they see a lot of up and down, there's a little bit less certainty. Talking about sites that like go from low season, they double in the high season, and then of course they cut back in half in the low season. And in that case, what I might want to do is show the trajectory over a few years if you have that sort of a history. So that could end up docking your multiple 1 or 2, but it doesn't have to dock it very much, especially again, if you can show a general upward trajectory. That leads me to the next one. What is the trajectory of the website? In Google Analytics, you can show a much longer history, and that's something that I would want to see as a buyer. I would want to see that that trajectory had a natural organic growth curve, and then that it's either continuing to go up or that it has leveled off and plateaued. A site that leveled off naturally and plateaued is a very safe site. It's not one that I'm necessarily going to want to invest quite as much in because it's not continuing on that upward trajectory. If the growth is still happening, you're going to command a higher multiple. However, a site with a nice plateaued level amount of traffic from month to month is a safe site, and it's one that can be appealing to a lot of buyers. So if your site's fairly level, it's probably going to be pretty close to sort of that average multiplier that we saw. If it's still on an upward trajectory, you could probably bump it up a couple of points, especially if the growth is still substantial. On the other hand, if you're on a downward trajectory, fully expect to knock several points off that multiplier. The next factor is opportunity. This is just is there low-hanging fruit? If as the seller, I can say, you know what? I have not done a very good job yet of monetizing with affiliate marketing. I have ads on there, I've optimized them, but I'm not great at affiliate marketing. That's exactly where I would go next. That's an opportunity. The buyer could potentially add 50%, 100%, even 200% to the value of the website, to the revenue and the income that it brings in, just by doing a little bit of work on the affiliate marketing side. If you know that there are opportunities, that there's low-hanging fruit for your website that you're just never going to get to, tack a couple of points onto the top of that multiple. On the other hand, if you've really just kind of laid it out, there's not a whole lot of opportunity other than let's just continue to grow the content on the site. Maybe establish a little bit more authority, but really you could just leave it as a passive investment. That's fine. That's going to be fairly average, and we can probably leave the multiple where it is or potentially drop it a point or two. Now, on the other end of that is risks. Are there substantial risks to this website? Is this in a niche that is fairly controversial and could potentially get sort of out of vogue in the next couple of years? Has there been a substantial amount of active link building used? Were PBNs used to build up the traffic? Did you get a sudden jolt of traffic because of some social media profile that existed but that the buyer won't have control over? Were any manipulative tactics used in the building up of the traffic of this website? If so, there are substantial risks to the site. It could receive manual penalties from Google. It could just get really hit by an algorithm update. These risks can definitely cause your multiple to drop substantially or make your site unsellable. So that's something to consider as you build up your site. We all want to make a good income from our websites, but if there's even an idea that you might want to sell this website in the future, building it up in a natural, organic way and showing that that's how it was built over time is going to command a higher multiple. It's going to make your site worth so much more, and it's going to make it sell just that much easier. Now, I mentioned before that when we were calculating profit, I like to have a profit number and then my adjusted profit number. Here's the reason for that. So let's say that we landed on a multiple of about 36. That's what we think we could probably command with this website. And our net income from the numbers that I just showed on the example that I gave you ended up at about $235 a month. Well, when we multiply those together, we're going to get a value for this website of $8,460. That's pretty good. Website makes a couple $100 a month, but if you sell it, it's worth over $8,000. Now imagine what this looks like when you build up your blog to make a couple $1,000s a month. Now all of a sudden you have a website you could sell for like $80,000. Not bad if it's a website that you decide you're not really that into and want to sell it so you can move on to something else. But remember that on this website, when we listed our expenses, there were some expenses that were one-off type expenses. Let's say I bought some content. Let's say I bought some stock photos, whatever it is. Maybe I bought a product to test out on my website, but it's not something that is going to have to be done by the buyer in the future. So if I back those expenses out and just assume that the site would continue making the same amount of money, well, now the value of my website jumps from $8,460 to $21,060. That's an increase of $12,600. To get that increase, what we would probably need to do is continue to operate this website at regular low cost, using just those ongoing costs, not paying for new stuff, and let it ride until you have about 12 months of history without those one-off expenses. Now, I know that you may not be looking to sell your website right now, but I love to see those numbers anyway for myself on my own websites, because even while a website is slowly ramping up, it's really nice to know that the thing that I have created already has value, even if it just has a fairly small amount of income. But if and when the time comes that you do want to sell your website, making a small mistake, as you can see, a multiple, the difference between a multiple of like 36 and 40, can be a substantial increase or decrease in your profit margin. Likewise, where you go to try to sell your website could have a substantial impact on how much you get for it, as well as how big of a commission that they take from it. So making a small mistake when selling your website could cost you thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. That's why we made a new course for Project 24. It's included. All of you who are members of Project 24 will see it. It's in there today. And it's all about buying and selling websites. Everything you need to know, step-by-step process. The valuation of the website is just one piece. I actually go into a lot more detail there, even than I did in this video. There's a ton of info packed into there. That spreadsheet I showed you, that's one of the tabs of that spreadsheet. I'm going to walk you through the process of figuring out your multiplier and then calculating a range of prices of what that website could be worth. But in addition to that, I walk you through the negotiation of the website. We talk about contracts. I even give you a template that you can use for a contract if you want to buy or sell a website independently rather than going through a brokerage that are going to charge you 10 to 20% of the value of that website just for listing it. So those of you in Project 24, I invite you to go check that out if that's something you're interested in today. And those of you who are considering buying or selling websites, don't make any mistakes. It's not going to cost you very much to go get into Project 24, and it could save you thousands and thousands of dollars.